Hello and welcome to the TMZ podcast. I'm Charlie Cotton, and today on the podcast, I'm joined by my good friend Derek, the Daddy Kaufman.
Oh, I love it. You broke out a new nickname, and I'm going to take it. I kind of like it. I like the alliteration. I wanted to drop legal Lothario for reasons we discuss related to this first story we're doing. Like, Diddy trial's coming up.
Yeah.
I don't want to be called a Lothario. I feel like that's a lot of what this trial is about.
You're a daddy.
I want to be called Daddy.
A zaddy.
I don't want to. Who do I want to call me Daddy, though? Yeah. Anybody.
No, let's moving on. Yeah, Diddy, we'll discuss him at the start here because the judge has given him a little break in the case that starts next week. We'll talk about Shailene Woodley because she went Instagram official with her new man who...
I like this guy's name, Lucas Bravo.
Lucas Bravo.
That's a strong name. It's like a comic book name.
Yeah, it is. You're
good.
destined to be a star. Good-looking dude. And finally, we'll talk about Brittany Cartwright and Jax Taylor. Well, they've broken up, but she continues to diss him live on air.
Just dragging him over the bedroom stuff.
Over the bedroom stuff. We'll get into it. We'll remind you, though, we're live on YouTube. So if you want to leave your questions or comments or what have you, please do that now or later, and we'll get to it by the end of the show. Okay. To begin with, Diddy can look all nice. He can look all schmick in his criminal case that starts next week with jury selection because the judge just signed off on letting him go business casual to court instead of just his jail jumpsuit.
Yeah, look, we're now on the eve of trial. This thing is starting on Monday. You're going to have jury selection. And once the jury comes into the courtroom, you are basically in the middle of a play and it's a performance. So before trial starts, you get this flurry of motions about what are we going to present to this jury that won't be too prejudicial to Diddy's ability to get a fair trial. And one of those things is, what does he look like? Because you can imagine if you're a juror sitting there and a guy comes in shackled in a jumpsuit, walking around in chains, looking like Hannibal Lecter maybe with something over his mouth, that makes the jury already think that this man's guilty. But the burden is on the prosecutors to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed these crimes. So the judge in this case has said, we got to let Diddy look like a normal human being so that he can get a fair trial. And one of those things is to let him come in a button-down shirt and look sort of like a proper, ordinary person who is not yet guilty. He is. Right. You are innocent until proven guilty, and part of that is you get to wear 5 button-down shirts, 5 pairs of pants, because this is multiple days of trial, 5 sweaters. Sounds like he's going for a little Mr. Rogers look, maybe, which is a softer version. This is all very planned to make him look not like a sex trafficking predator, right?
Right.
So you want to soften his image. So they say 2 pairs of socks, shoes without laces. You notice the laces? Because in prison, you can't have laces because... They worry about it. They worry about you Jeffrey Epsteining yourself.
Well, allegedly.
So listen, he's going to look pretty formal. This is going to be sort of a cleaned up Diddy in front of the jury.
Now, you are a man who has been through a few boxes of hair dye.
I've been there.
Would you advise him to get rid of the grays that he has in his beard before trial?
I would absolutely not advise him to do so.
Oh, okay.
I think what would benefit Diddy is to look like an old, enfeebled, nice guy. And part of that is just letting your gray come in. If he has jet black hair, shades on, this looks like a Hollywood sort of guy who could pull off shenanigans. I want him to look like your grandpa. You know what I mean? Like a nice guy in a sweater sitting there. What harm could I do? Like a lot of this is image. I would keep the gray. There's differing, views of this. Some people would say make him look like a celebrity because they will let a celebrity off and that would be dyeing his hair, look like the old Diddy. I'm not sure that works for this kind of case because looking like the celebrity Diddy, in my mind, brings the association that he could perpetrate these kind of crimes because he's famous.
You're a lawyer, obviously. You're one of the lawyers here. Do you think that he's got a defense? Like, you don't know everything that the defense knows, everything that the prosecutors knows. But do you think that you could stand up there and defend what we know so far?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? I mean, lawyers have to choose where how their conscience collides with what they do for a living. I could defend Diddy. I think a lot of his case is going to be built around I had a pretty active sex life. I did dabble in prostitutes. I'm a very rich guy, but I'm not someone who coerced people into sex, and I don't sex traffic people. I may have used prostitution services, but I'm not running a sex ring. I'm a guy who's got money, and some of the money I want to throw around for group sex. I think he's willing to look like a sort of pervert or weirdo or whatever you want to say about this sexual lifestyle. Not to yuck his yum. I mean, to each their own. And they're just going to try to draw attention away from these being crimes. They can't really run away from, he had a very active sex life.
Right.
There's a lot of baby oil in that house.
Right.
He wasn't using it for, sun tanning.
and the jury will obviously get selected next week. What do you think that both parties there will be looking for when they pick their jurors?
That's a great question. So who do you want on your jury if you're a prosecutor? For a prosecutor, you want someone who is a law and order type, someone who is quite conservative and doesn't necessarily think that indulging all your sexual fantasies is a good thing. So you're going to look for someone who maybe has some Christian values that are going to collide with Diddy's lifestyle so that you can just make him look like a bad dude. That's what a prosecutor's looking for. Now, on the prosecution or on the defense side, you want the opposite, right? You want someone who is sort of into Diddy's celebrity, sort of wants to have that lifestyle, maybe doesn't have it, but sees it as something to aspire to and thinks is quite cool. Then there's sort of a male-female divide. I think women might be more turned off to Diddy than men. So maybe you want more men if you're on the defense, and you want more women if you're on the prosecution.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get on with our next story. Shailene Woodley and Lucas Bravo just went Instagram official. We had seen them like on a stroll like maybe a few weeks ago, and we were like, oh, these guys look in love.
Yeah.
Well, now, I mean, as is the way, Instagram official means everything because it appears they went to Stagecoach. They had a great time at Stagecoach.
Stagecoach is a hard launch for relationships.
Oh, yeah. They were
right? Festivals.
They were hand-holdy wearing their cowboy hats. Like, they were matching. And then they went to that funny little place with all, like, the painting on the rocks. What's that place called?
I don't know. You know better.
I don't know.
Painted Rock, maybe?
Painted Rock Castle thing in California. And they're obviously just, like, on a little road trip together. Lucas Bravo, obviously the hunk from Emily in Paris.
Yes.
And Shailene Woodley from so many things, but also she used to date Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I don't know much about Lucas Bravo. He bears a passing resemblance. This has been a big deal in our office because people love Emily in Paris. We also followed Shailene's relationship with Aaron Rodgers and how that fell apart. And this guy definitely is cut from the same cloth. I will say that. I don't think they look like each other, but he wears beanies. He's got a beard. They are both going for that sort of mountain man music festival, crunchy granola hiker type of personality. And that's who she is. I mean, she looks like she walked out of central casting for like someone who didn't shower and likes long hikes, right?
Didn't shower.
No knock on her.
Oh,
but
it sounds like a knock.
she seems like that type of person to me. She's
but I like
glamorous.
that. I like that.
Yeah.
She's like, seems
You're
like
into it.
girl next door. She's like a hot plain Jane, but like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like but
a girl next door who didn't like necessarily shower, right? Like a little stinky. There's something about her that is like, I would like to be on the earth. I'm going to go paint rocks. I want to sort of be a little hippie-ish.
I'm into that.
You know, not a cheerleader girl like next door.
No. That's good as well, though. Can be.
We can't be picky.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting. It seems like this is their hard launch. And everyone's loving the couple. Everyone's really loving them.
Yeah, she had like a pretty, I don't know if it was a rough breakup, but she was like sad about the Aaron Rodgers stuff. So it's fine to see her back on her feet. I kind of like Shailene Woodley.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, on to our last story. Brittany Cartwright went on Watch What Happens Live to slam her ex, Jax Taylor. Let's have a listen to her talking to Andy Cohen now.
Give me one more for Brittany.
Brittany, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate Jax in the bedroom?
Oh, Lord. There was times when he was about a 7 or an 8, but majority of the time, no stamina, no nothing. I'd say a 2 or 3.
Just dragging her ex-husband. Look, you think this is like the worst insult you can have.
If you publicly call a guy a 2 out of 10 in the bedroom.
She said his peak was a 7.
8, actually.
8. Okay, yeah.
I mean,
maybe that one time she
peak
remembered.
was an 8. That's pretty good.
Pretty nice.
It's pretty nice.
It's pretty nice.
8.
you have to look at the reasons he was called a 2. She points out stamina, right? And stamina is something you can work on, and it's nice to tell a lady like, I wish I could have more stamina, but you're just so beautiful.
They usually like
I
that.
often drop that line.
I often drop that one.
Couldn't control myself.
Yeah,
I mean, I never had such a beauty.
Right.
Yeah, it only works the first couple times. I mean, on like the 10th or 11th, they're like, I think you just have a problem.
Yeah, fool me 3 or 5 times.
Fool me a lifetime.
Fool me a lifetime.
Shame on me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's look, no one likes to hear this, but she didn't go for the jugular, right? The jugular is he's not working with much. She went for the stamina card, which is something that he can say, yeah, look, I didn't have stamina because I wasn't as into it, but with you, baby. So that won't hurt his sex life, I don't think. If she had dropped the hammer and said, Jax isn't working with much.
Yes.
Yeah, really hard to rebound from it.
Now, it is interesting casting for who's discussing this story with me because you have been quite open about, your own inchage.
My own perceived inadequacies?
Yeah, or lack thereof.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've fallen on the sword because my approach is to create the lowest expectations possible because then you can only exceed them, right?
Yeah, I like
so
that.
I like everyone to just think, oh, man, he says this about himself. There's not much there. And then, surprise, it's slightly better than advertised.
Who were you taking your pants off in front of?
Only Mary. Only Mary has ever seen me. I don't even take my shirt off in front of people. You know that.
Oh, yeah, true. All right, should we read out some of your comments now?
Yeah, let's do it.
The media directory said, Diddy do it? Nice wordplay there. Brian Evans, grease him up and send him to prison.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in prison for a while. Is he ever going to see the light of day? At least he gets some nice drip during his trial, but I don't think he's going to be a free man at the end of this, if you're asking my sort of prediction.
I wasn't. Did you see that George Santos is also worried about going to prison? Did you see that story today?
I did see that, yes.
He thinks that he's going to get brutalized in prison, so he's like, keep me, if anything happens to me.
Yeah, it's not a mistake.
It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's scary in prison. It must be
tough for
scary.
him in prison.
Crystal Brown says, I hope they nail his ass to the wall. Nothing that man put on going to help him.
I think it's an uphill battle for him, don't you? I mean, the perception is the reality with Diddy, and yes, we got to get into they have to prove these specific crimes, but there's a lot of jurors who are going to be inclined to just think he's a bad dude.
You just need one, though.
Yes, that's true. The burden is on the prosecution. He's got to convince everyone, whereas he's just got to convince one.
Rose says, I can't wait for the trial to start, but unfortunately, it's not going to be televised. No cameras in the courthaus. Yeah, that sucks.
It makes you so upset because we got the Johnny Depp trial in Virginia. We obviously had OJ out here but New York doesn't do it that way. They will have sketches, but sketches are always just like kind of comedy and not really very interesting.
Same thing for Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. I don't want to say Trump anything, but he should pass a law, cameras always in courtrooms. Actually, he would never do that because he's in a courtroom sometimes.
Exactly.
Oh, but
I like Diddy come in like Freddy Krueger, Christopher Jordan said, because the sweaters could backfire. I think he's going for Mr. Rogers. It might come in like Freddy Krueger.
Okay. Yeah. Kevin Glenn says, is Lucas Bravo Johnny Bravo's brother in this comic book?
I think possibly.
I think it could be.
I think there could be an extended Bravo universe that we don't know about. We'll have to stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the good looks to be in it, so for sure. Lola says, Lucas Bravo, wee. Huge step up from Aaron, honestly.
A big step up from Aaron Rodgers, one of the most decorated quarterbacks in history. This guy's on Emily in Paris. Is it that big of a deal?
It's a pretty big show, but Aaron Rodgers is just kind of lame, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's like controversial and sort of thinks he's clever. He's the type of guy I don't want to hang out with.
Right, but Lucas Bravo, on the other hand, he seems...
Oh, man, he could make me cool, dude.
Yeah,
just
you
being
and
in
him.
his orbit. Oh,
you and him out in the town
just
together.
Be catching the runoff from Bravo.
Yeah. What else we got? Jesse Remsen says, good morning from Detroit.
Love Detroit.
Love it. Thank you, Jesse.
Although I'm a Knicks fan and I'm pulling for my Knicks. You too. You always text me. And they're playing
Bing
the Pistons.
bong.
Bing bong. So we'll see.
Lakers got bounced last night.
Lakers gone. Embarrassing.
It was embarrassing.
Luka needs to hit the gym. Let's be honest.
Oh,
Luka's got to hit the gym. His conditioning is so bad that he's such a liability on defense that no matter how much offense you provide, it's not a good look. Lakers can't win with old LeBron and lazy Luka.
Oh, wow. Shots fired. MXXM. bro show today.
Yeah.
We got a bro show, baby.
All bros, kid. All bros.
Hey, bro, let's chug.
Double dads, but
Double dad. So not really,
maybe not bros anymore, but
and Eminem, very loyal fan, Eminem.
Oh.
Derek, have you ever done stand-up comedy? You're always so funny on the TMZ TV show.
I appreciate that. No, I haven't done stand-up. That is a whole art form. I love stand-up though.
Yeah.
I love stand-up comedy. We have a stand-up in our writer's room, Rick Mitchell, who I'm always picking his brain, but no, I've never gotten on stage.
There's a big difference between like stand-up comedy, pre-rehearsed jokes as opposed to spontaneous jokes. So we do
Completely
spontaneous jokes on the TMZ show. Premeditated jokes, it's such a different like.
It's an art form.
It's an art form.
The writing is essential. The persona, you're up there alone on stage. We're in a locker room, and I love.
And we try things that aren't funny half the time.
Oh yeah,
we go too far a lot of the time, and they just cut it from the show.
But we know each other enough, and there's a trust, and it's like we're loose with each other, and
Yes.
that sometimes generates humor. On a stage, you're just alone in a spotlight. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do bring the funny on the show, though.
No, you as well.
No, I don't know. I wouldn't say that. You do. Okay. Thank you, Derek.
All right, it's good to be here.
And we'll see you guys here tomorrow. Goodbye.